Lessons from the Legends. Pay It Forward. Paying it forward is doing something good for someone with no expectation of getting something back in return. The motivation to pay it forward stems from the faith that the individual on the receiving end of a selfless act will reciprocate down the road for someone else. To pay it forward is to act in the here and now in a way that benefits the future. A prime example of paying it forward is mentorship. The park and recreation profession is populated with men and women who pay it forward in countless ways on a daily basis. While most of their selfless acts go unpublicized, the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration's AAPRA's Legends Videos series recounts a history of selfless acts of mentorship that have carried the profession forward from its early beginnings to the present day, and in so doing, demonstrate the wisdom of paying it forward to ensure a brighter tomorrow for the park and recreation profession. Our story begins with Willard Woody Sutherland, one of the pioneers in parks and recreation. For 40 years, Sutherland was the Director of Personnel, Education, and Training for the National Recreation Association. Sutherland was instrumental in running the NRA's National Recreation School, the first of its kind to educate future park and recreation leaders. As Sutherland relates the history,
2 years after the closing of the National Recreation School, we started the internship program. This internship program was centered primarily in the city of Philadelphia, under the supervision of Robert Crawford, who was Commissioner of Recreation in Philadelphia.
Dr. Paul Douglas was the one way back in those early days. He was the chairman of the personnel committee for the NRA. Woody Sutherland was the director of personnel. Both of you know Mr. Sutherland, and he came to me, Dr. Douglas, one day, and he said, "Bob," he said, "I got a concept that we ought to take some of the bright young people, preferably those with master's degree in the field of park and recreation, and give them a year's internship in a large department so that they could see firsthand what the problems are, what is being done. And in other words, when they go out in the field, they're more knowledgeable rather than right out of college." The idea appealed to me. So the National Recreation, Mr. Sutherland, established, their board agreed to have what they call an internship. And they would select, as I say, outstanding young men and women in the country. Fortunately, both of you, of course, were in that program. Dr. Hartsoe was the first intern that was selected. And he came to Philadelphia to work with us. And he stayed with us for a year as the internship, and he was doing such a great job, and we all liked him. I didn't want him to leave. Now, that was not the purpose, to keep the interns in the Philadelphia department. And some of our own professional people were a little bit worried about me bringing in all these interns because they were better educated than they were. And some of them got the idea that I was bringing them in and ultimately I'd replace all the top leadership in the department with these interns. That wasn't the idea. The idea was to send them out in the field. But Dr. Hartsoe stayed with us for a few years until finally he was tapped by the National Association. Joe Pendergast to go with them, and then of course he left there to get his doctorate degree and then moved on into higher education. And you came to us, I recall, and I remember vividly when you came. And I remember talking to your father and mother who came because some of the parents were a little bit concerned about the recreation profession in those early days. And I recall your father was the superintendent of schools, I believe in Dodge City, Kansas.
Correct.
And after talking to them, well, I think they felt that this really is a profession, and there's some place for a young person to go and to move up the ladder and to play a significant role in the lives of people.
The Sutherland-Crawford connection became the first link in a mentoring chain that began in the 1950s and continues to this day. Consider these testimonials first from Graham Ski, an AAPRA legend and former director of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation for Orange County, New York, in his interview with Ralph Kreider, former director of Los Angeles County Parks and Recreation and recently retired from directing the City of Long Beach, California's Recreation Department, and himself an AAPRA legend.
From a mentoring standpoint of view, are there any people that you really looked up to and helped you along and encouraged you and, in these last 50 years?
My interest in the profession, though, really intensified when my department sent me to regional conferences to hear the philosophy, goals, objectives of some of the great leaders in the field. And among the most prominent was a gentleman named Bob Crawford in the city of Philadelphia. Bob came in there from Oakland and brought a lot of new ideas, innovative playgrounds, community centers, community citizen groups in helping to direct the programs. Bob Crawford, was an inspiration to all of us.
Or consider AAPRA legend Nate Washington, former Commissioner of Recreation for the City of Philadelphia and former Director of the Recreation and Parks Department in Newark, New Jersey, when recounting his baptism by fire into Parks and Recreation in Philadelphia's tougher neighborhoods.
I got the job with the Recreation Department and started working with in black neighborhoods. Remember, there was recreation centers that I could not go to, even being an employee of the Recreation Department. However, Bob Crawford put an end to that, and that was he's probably the foremost mentor that I had in the field of recreation at Park that I can recall.
Or consider the testimony of Jeffrey Godbey, Professor Emeritus from the Pennsylvania State University and an AAPRA legend in his own right, when looking back on his introduction to the park and recreation field.
During that time, I was very interested in urban recreation, and I got an opportunity to work for Philadelphia's Department of Recreation, which at the time may have been the best, or certainly among the best urban departments in the country. And Bob Crawford, who was a legend, in this field, took an interest in me, and I was dumbfounded that he would do that. And he would frequently go like this, come here into the office and explain, now here's what's going on in this rec center and here's why this is happening, and you take a city car and go out there, and he spent a lot of time with me.
By Robert Crawford's example, we can begin to see what paying it forward in the form of professional mentorship looks like. Charles Hartsoe captures its essence.
I think the role model that Bob Crawford provided was probably one of the most instrumental influences, certainly on my life, and I know you and I have talked about it, and I know on your life. And I just don't think you can say enough for the opportunity that a young person was accorded to work under such a seasoned and committed administrator. He really had a wonderful philosophy, both on life and on the importance of recreation and what it could do in the lives of people.
Properly told, this story has no end. In the same way Paul Douglas and Willard Sutherland paid it forward to Robert Crawford in the form of an NRA internship program, and the same way Crawford paid it forward to Graham Ski, Charles Hartsoe, Robert Tolson, Nate Washington, Jeffrey Godbey, and countless other up-and-coming park and recreation professionals in the form of mentorship, those same 5 individuals, and countless others mentored by Robert Crawford, have paid it forward through academic and professional mentorships of their own. As Graham Ski concludes, when asked what he would advise young people entering the park and recreation profession to do,
try to emulate the achievements of that mentor, the philosophy of that mentor in their lives and in their program planning. And of course, all of us, the college training is wonderful, but continue your training by attending local conferences, national conferences. Whenever you reach the point where you don't think you need any more, you've really lost it.
Paying it forward is how we move forward together as a human services profession. We share what we know unselfishly in service of a cause much larger than ourselves, motivated by the prospect of a better tomorrow for those in whom we entrust the future.
Taking shape, we are diamonds